Welcome back to Home is Where the Hearts Are. This is Build Episode 5. Alright, here James is about to install the top and the face of the dinette seating. And I guess this is a good time to show you the blueprints that James drew of the dinette platform and seating so you can get a better idea of what exactly we're doing. This is a side view of our dinette platform and seating. We made it 9 inches tall to accommodate for the 6-inch tall water tank that will be stored underneath. This is a top view of the platform framing that shows how we encased the water tank so it was snug and unable to shift while we were driving. The water tank we used was made by Alpha Systems and we purchased it through Amazon. The link is in the description for you. It's a 39-gallon tank and is 28 inches wide, 54 inches long, and 6 inches in height. We did all of the platform framing with 2x2s. This space is used as a storage drawer that's accessible from the inside of the trailer. And these two open square spaces serve as storage for hoses and water tank components and are accessible from the exterior when the ramp door is down. This is a different view of the dinette seating, and I have to say, James did a phenomenal job with drawing the blueprints, and his measurements were usually incredibly spot on. Anyway, our dinette seating converts into our bed as well, and we went with 48 inches wide, 16 inches tall, and 22 inches deep for our seating measurements. And we have a total height of 74 inches when laying down. We sacrificed a little on the size of our bed because we wanted more kitchen and closet space, and to be honest, it's worked out pretty great. We use normal door hinges for the dinette seating lid to be able to have easy access to the storage underneath. We use 3/4 inch plywood for both the tops and the faces for obvious reasons, strength, rigidity, and the ability to mount things to it for our electrical cabinet. The next day, we cut the underlayment walling for our V-nose and got to installing it. We had to stay pretty budget conscious during the build, so for this sidewall, we decided to Frankenstein it with leftover underlayment scraps to save a little on the overall price of all the walling. Of course, we used our Ryobi oscillating tool to make detailed cuts, and our Ryobi cordless brad nailer to seamlessly attach the underlayment to the wall. Here, James is using a paddle bit to create holes for our light switches to sit in. For the particular light switches that we purchased, we used a 3/4 inch paddle bit and it worked perfectly. These are the light switches we used, and the link is in the description for you. After hanging the underlayment, I went through and filled every brad nail hole with wood putty and then started the next day with sanding everything down to a super smooth finish. Next, we used our Behr Premium Plus paint and primer to paint the walls. We went with 7050 Ultra Pure White in their interior satin enamel finish. Well, 1,826 days we have been together.
Yeah.
Today is our 5-year anniversary.
Yay!
It's a late after, it's 12:30.
Yeah.
We're just leaving the house. We're gonna go get some breakfast.
Yeah.
And then we will take you on the adventures post-breakfast.
Yes.
Okay.
It's adventure
So,
time.
it is adventure time. We have got the How hooked up. As you can see, our back seat is full of goodies. We are going to, what are we doing, my love?
We're going out to Jean Lake.
We are going out to Jean Lake, super close to our house. We didn't want to go too far.
Price of gas,
time, but we didn't, you know, we've decided and talked about this extensively with each other, just that, you know, we have been together 5 years and this is, you know, a big milestone anniversary, but we are also very much in the middle of building our home, and we're gifting our home to each other. The build, you know, that's part of our future and our journey.
Yeah. Happy anniversary. We're building each other a home.
Yeah.
Las Vegas roads.
Yeah. We're okay with kind of going small for this year. We're taking out the camper in the way that it is, and we're gonna go out and stay in it overnight.
First adventure in it.
Yeah, first adventure.
First night sleeping in it, but
no.
First adventure in it.
It's got stuff in it, it's got our lights, you know, we're gonna have power in the middle of the night. It'll be fine, so yeah, I'm excited. It's a beautiful day. It's a little cloudy, but it's not even cloudy. You can see the blue sky, the sun is shining, and it's our anniversary.
Couldn't ask for more of a beautiful day.
Did it. We're gonna go. My arm's about to fall off, so we'll catch you later.
Bye.
This was our first time setting up the camper on an actual adventure, and we didn't get to finish the shower or toilet section before testing it out, so we used this pop-up shower tent for a place to go to the restroom in private. The link to that is also in the description. The ramp door didn't have any weight on it yet, so we had to use our portable fire pit and propane tank to hold down the ramp door so it didn't spring back up and close on us. We toasted to our anniversary and our new home, did a little happy dance, and carried on with our evening. As the sun started setting and it started getting cooler, we enjoyed some warm tea from our thermos and sat back to enjoy the show. Later that night, James lit the fire pit and we relaxed for the rest of the night, feeling incredibly excited to finish our build and have this be the rest of our lives every day. After our celebration, we came back ready to finish this build once and for all. We got to work right away on finishing the shower framing. So here's a quick breakdown of the shower. Our shower is 40 inches long and 24 inches wide. On this side of the shower, we used 2x4s to ensure we could house the shower mixer and plumbing. On this side of the shower, we decided to use 2x2s since nothing besides walling was going on this side, and we wanted to watch the budget and the weight of the trailer.
What we have just done is we have ripped down a 2x6 to which is actually only 5.5 inches. We have ripped it down to 5 inches. This is going to go at the bottom front of the shower because that's where the lip of the shower pan needs to sit over. So what we're going to do is I'm going to set this down, get my gloves on, and then we're going to go in, and I have the top and the front 3 pieces or sections of that. We have a pocket hold, so that way we can pocket hold it to the side of the frame and down to the floor of the shower.
This is the shower pan we purchased off Amazon. The one we bought has a right side drain, and that worked for what we wanted. I've linked the same type of shower pan in the description. The only difference is the one linked is a center drain, not a right side drain.
Pan sit right over there. That way we can have some underlayment under that, and it'll be nice and flat. That's going to sit right on top of that and give it some support. So let's get this thing secured. And if we haven't shown you the progress that we've made on the shower last night, Nick and I got this wall up, got the wire ran for that, got this support brace across the top to keep the walls from doing that. Got that done. I got this secured this morning. So we are bucking and cooking. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and get these pop screws in. Oh yeah. This thing is secure. Oh, look at that. Oh man, look at that. That's beautiful. That is beautiful. Got the floor hole marked out right there. Hopefully you can see that. Now, once I get this all cleaned up, I'm gonna vacuum everything, make sure I don't have any wood pieces sticking out and stuff. I'm gonna have Miranda, she's gonna come in here. She's going to silicone with mold resistant silicone. She's gonna go all the way down around everything. So, go ahead and get this prepped for her and cleaned up.
We used mold armor, caulk, and sealant to go over every seam in the shower. It was important for us to block off any area where water could potentially enter between these wood panels and cause rot over time. James started with the top seams to test the consistency of the mold armor, showed me what to do, and then it was my job to take it from there and caulk the entire shower.
It's over here.
This stuff is like just inhaling a volcano in 3rd grade.
Oh yeah, it's like, yeah, straight up vinegar.
The mold armor did have a pretty strong vinegar scent while applying it, but overall it had a pretty smooth consistency, which made it easy to apply. With that done, the next step was to start framing the closet, so here's a quick breakdown of that. We wanted a decent sized closet, so we went with 30 inches long and that same 24-inch depth. It's floor to ceiling height, which is about 80 inches tall. These two areas are for shoe storage. There are 2 drawers for clothes. This is the place where our clothes will be hung, longer clothes on one side and shorter clothes on the other. This is a storage cubby that's accessible from our bed and will serve as our little nightstand. This was going to serve as a secret storage on the inside of the closet, but we ended up not doing that, so we have more room for our clothes. Nick and James got started on the closet framing. We used 2x2s for pretty much all of the framing to be both cost conscious and weight conscious, so as not to go over our cargo trailer's weight rating of 7,500 pounds. They decided to start by attaching the wall side framing first, by drilling pilot holes and then screwing the frames into the trailer wall. As they were doing that, I started painting the entire inside of the shower with Kilz mold and mildew treatment. Again, doing everything we can to treat the wood and ensure there are things to help lessen the opportunity for mold or mildew to grow. The next day, James and I decided to see if we could Frankenstein this shower wall with underlayment like we did the other wall. After that was done, it was time for Nick and James to move on to the framing for the refrigerator area. This area has an inside width of 20 inches and is floor to ceiling, so also 80 inches tall. This area is where the litter box for our cat Freya will go. We originally wanted 2 storage drawers here, and this area is where the refrigerator will go. They framed the floor and ceiling pieces first and screwed them into place. We used 1/2-inch plywood for the wall between our closet and the refrigerator area, and we went with 1/2-inch since it wasn't going to hold any weight and it didn't have to be as heavy duty. They used a remaining piece of a 2x4 that was used for the shower framing and put it right in the middle to help reinforce that area, since the refrigerator would be sitting on top of it. As such, we used 3/4-inch plywood for the fridge to sit on top of. Everything was secured with screws, and it was able to be closed up with another piece of 1/2-inch plywood. This is actually James telling me that in order for Freya's litter box to be high enough for her, we can only do 1 drawer, not 2. Sometimes throughout a build process, unless this is what you do for a living, things just don't go 100% perfect, and you have to be okay with that and be willing to adapt and overcome the obstacle. This is what the area looked like when they were done, and now it was time to move on to framing the small kitchen cabinet that'll go to the left of the fridge. All of the drawers will be done at a later date. This was a walkthrough we did after all the framing. So you can see the shower completely framed and prepped with Kilz. There's the kitchen counter cabinet framing. The dinette seating was complete. You can see the cubby and the closet complete. The fridge framing and Freya's litter box area were complete, as was the small kitchen counter framing. The next big step was framing the overhead cabinets that will be above the kitchen counter and dinette seating. For these overhead cabinet frames, we used 2x2s. We wanted 6 cabinets with at least 12 inches of height on the inside. They ended up being about 14 inches wide and about 13 inches tall. After deciding on measurements, Nick and James got to work on making the cuts and assembling the frames. Of course, they pocket screwed everything together to ensure rigidity and strength. Once they finished the first set, James held it up and it looked amazing. After After getting a baseline of what steps to do and the measurements needed, James and I finished the process of cutting all the pieces needed for the overhead cabinets. To save on money and materials, we even broke down this beautiful custom makeup vanity that James made for me to use the 2x2s for the overhead cabinets. Next, James and I started to cut the bottoms for the overhead cabinets. Since these were going to be holding a lot of weight, we went with 3/4 inch plywood for the bottoms. After rough fitting them all, we used some clamps to keep them in place while drilling pilot holes and screwing the plywood onto the frame. Once we got everything assembled, we filled the holes with wood putty and started sanding everything for a super smooth finish. And then we started the fun part of painting the cabinets. We used the same Behr Premium Plus paint and primer in 7050 Ultra Pure White for our cabinets. We decided to use white for our walls and cabinets to help open up the small space and allow light to bounce off of things, as well as help brighten the overall feeling of the camper. Just a little maybe pro tip, when we were done sanding the cabinets, we used a very lightly damp paper towel to wipe the dust off, and then we also used the vacuum to get any residual dust to make sure we had a super smooth surface for paint. Once the cabinets were finished being painted, we moved on to cutting the backing for the dinette seating. Oh, and we also painted that white as well. Alright, next we're moving on to our flooring. Look guys, we are so sorry, but there were some major technical difficulties and we did not properly record the installation of our vinyl planking flooring. We do have pictures and we hope that'll be good enough. So the first thing to note is that we had an incredible thing happen to us during this flooring process. We had this idea going into it that the flooring was going to be decently expensive and we were slightly worried about how much it would cost. Another difficult factor was, of course, trying to choose the best color for our taste. You know how the stores only show you a few pieces of each color? It makes it a little difficult to see the full pattern and really envision it across your entire floor. Well, once we got to the flooring part, our awesome neighbor Nick actually told us that he had leftover vinyl planking from his flooring replacement, and he offered us to come over and see how it looked in his house. And let me tell you, it was pretty stunning, and right when we saw it, we knew that it was the perfect color for the vibe we were going for. The first step was to line up the laser level with the center of the V-nose to have everything be as aligned and centered as possible. The flooring that Nick had was made by Nucor, and it came in the color Riverport. We did link it in the description. It's important to note that this particular set of vinyl planking contains panels that are different widths for a more natural look. It's also important to note that this is a tongue and groove vinyl planking. Once the laser was set up, James and Nick laid down the thinnest piece first to the right of the center line and built off of it from there. In order to offset the seams like this, when it was time to start a new row, they started off with a half piece of one plank. This put each seam essentially in the middle of each panel to the right and left of the center line. To ensure everything would stay in place with all the vibration of driving, James decided to use Loctite Power Grab Ultimate Construction Adhesive. They also added an extra layer of protection by brad nailing each panel to the subfloor after the Loctite was put on the bottom of each panel. And our beautiful flooring was finally complete. They did such an amazing job, and it looks so good. Another thing they did was take the thinnest panels and utilize them for baseboards to tie everything together and make it look that much better. They also had to sneak this guy in before the flooring even started. This is our dirty laundry hamper. It was built out of 2x2s, and as you can see, the door face comes down to expose the hamper and goes right back up into locking position. So our flooring went right to the edge of our door. You can see the insulation and the subfloor underneath, and vinyl planking, specifically tongue and groove, can be pretty fragile. So we decided to not only cover up the insulation and subflooring, but we also wanted to reinforce the edge of that vinyl planking, since this was our front door and would obviously face lots of foot traffic. We decided to put 1.5" aluminum L trim over the edge, and it worked out perfectly. That's also linked in the description for you. With the flooring done, it was time to move on to finishing the walls that needed to be sanded and painted. You might notice a small cabinet frame where James is working right now. James and Nick knocked that framing out real quick and got it hung, but here's a quick breakdown. It is 24 inches tall, it is 27 inches long, and has a depth of about 13 inches. Okay, so back to this clip. Unfortunately, the 1/2-inch plywood that we used for this wall was just not in the greatest shape to use it for the final walling. We filled it with wood putty and tried to sand everything to be even, and it was not happening. So we made the decision to quickly pivot and utilize a beautiful underlayment, cut it to shape, and then attach it over this walling so it looked better. We also decided to use this idea for the side of the small kitchen cabinet. Once it was fit into place, we did use our Ryobi cordless brad nailer to attach it. This was definitely an interesting shape for James to try and measure, so we did the best we could, and it actually turned out pretty good. We also decided to use an extra piece of underlayment to close in the overhead cabinets. Next, we took a leftover piece of 3/4 inch plywood and took the measurements of the bottom of the small overhead kitchen cabinet. We secured it with some clamps, made the line, and started to cut. Once we lined it up and knew it was going to fit perfectly, James pre-drilled holes and we attached it with screws to the bottom of the frame. The next step was to close in this cabinet as well as the closet wall. We went with the underlayment for both because no weight was going to be on these parts, and the underlayment was the smoothest surface for paint. We lined it up perfectly and of course used our Ryobi cordless brad nailer to attach it. I filled the holes with wood putty, sanded, and got everything ready to paint. And that's it for Build Episode 5. Join us on our next episode where we cut our butcher block countertops, install our water heater, and even get started on our shower tiling. Thanks for watching Home is Where the Hearts Are. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications so you don't miss any future episodes.